Welcome to the Performance Enhancing Podcast. It's like steroids for your brain. A podcast for people looking to live life at their peak potential, chock full of real-world tools and knowledge that you can apply in your life today. By providing you with a lens into the lives, beliefs, practices, and actions of those who are already living extraordinary lives, the Performance Enhancing Podcast will help you shift your mindset or create that change in your daily rituals and habits so you can explode with success in the areas of life that are most important to you. So get ready for another dose of Performance Enhancing Podcast with SatoriPrime. Here's your host, Elon Ferdman.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Performance Enhancing Podcast with your host, Elon Ferdman. So here's part 2 of the live webinar series that we've started doing every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is part of our Have It All Academy. We have a group coaching thing that we do every 2 weeks. That's called our Have It All Academy. This is basically to show you guys the kind of work that we're doing and the kind of distinctions and tools that we share. So this particular part that we did was all about responsibility. So if you want to understand how to have the best relationships of your life, if you want to understand how to take control back in your life in the areas that matter most to you, this is your jam. So without further ado, check out part 2 of our Have It All webinar series. This is a 10-part series. This is part 2 talking about responsibility. Enjoy.
Bro, I want you to speak to this. So Marco says, aren't you just making ground rules for how a relationship is going to move forward? So why is having that conversation different than setting ground rules versus like you taking responsibility for the communication in the room?
So where most people, so look, I'm all for setting ground rules. Like I have no issue with that, right? We do it unconscious anyway. Guys, you unknowingly set up ground rules with your kids, with your spouse, with your people at work. Like they know how to interact with you, how not to interact with you. They know what to do to push your buttons. You've trained them on all of it, conscious or unconscious. Taking responsibility for is I could sit there, right, and fume and get upset and get defensive and all of this stuff, which at the end of the day, here's the crazy part, is not even me doing any of that. It's my ego. Because to the ego, a good argument, losing an argument, I should say, is like death. That's the equivalent of death to the ego. It's the same thing as a lion mauling you. So the ego gets real fired up in these situations. Now, what I'm committed to in my relationship with my in-laws is love and connection. Having that experience doesn't give me access to that, nor does it give them access to that. Because if I cut them off, right, even though I'm sitting there and arguing, I've literally cut them off. I've cut love and connection. So what I can be responsible for is the way the relationship is going, the lack of love, the lack of connection is my causing, is my responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? Because I allow for the space for that conversation to be present in there, okay? If I know that I'm allowing, right, like I'm 100% responsible, I take that on, that means that I'm allowing for this conversation to be in that space. Once I have that outlook, now I can also be responsible for moving that conversation out of my space, right? And the thing is, you have to do this with grace. Because if you do it from a judgy, like I'm upset standpoint, or if you do it while the conversation is happening, you're poo-pooing on the situation. This is the conversation that happens like when that conversation isn't even brought up. It's not politics come up and you go like that and react. No. This is, hey, you know what I've noticed recently? I've noticed that when we speak about politics, it just gets aggressive. People start yelling. It never really goes anywhere. So I'm just thinking, look, do we agree that what we want in our relationship is love and connection? Yes, right? Do you feel that we have love and connection when we're talking about politics? No, absolutely, right? Because they're in the same vein. So can we just make an effort? Because again, listen, you can't say like, we will never do this because we're humans, right? Can we make an effort that we don't have these conversations, that we can actually engage in conversations that we feel love and connection from? Who the fuck is going to say no to that? Right? And so that's it. And I don't know if it's called setting up ground rules. Like, I don't know if you want to do that. To me, it's not really setting up ground rules. It's setting up effective relationships, effective ways to communicate with people.
It's creating alignment in terms of we're both oriented around having the same goals in the relationship, which is love, connection, vitality, all these different things. Anything that's taking that away from us, right, in terms of that, like, none of us are committed to that. And then the ultimate, doesn't really freaking matter what your opinion is politically or anything else. You know, to some people it might, and they might still want to engage in that. But at least, like, look, most people, when you tell them something that could cause like, what's the word I'm looking for? A kerfuffle? Is that a word? Am I making that up?
You're definitely making up a word.
That is not a word. Isn't like a kerfuffle like a
kerfuffle?
Kerfuffle is like some kind of resistance. Whether it is or it isn't, right now kerfuffle means creating resistance with people. You know, like what people are concerned with is that they're losing your respect, your love, or your trust. And if it's very clear inside of the way that you're communicating with people that that's not the case, like, it's not that, this just doesn't work for me, it's fine, right? And that's it. You're aligning, you're being clear in your communication, and you're speaking to your needs. People are terrible at creating their boundaries and saying and really speaking clearly. They hide things. They think if they just show that, like, grimace face, like, the other person's going to pick it up and subtly pick up on their cues and, like, in their conversation and stuff like that. And people don't, because our experience of self is so self-absorbed. We're barely conscious of our own experience, nevertheless what other people are doing, right? So, okay, I like these questions, but I do want to move through it, and I think unless you have more to say about it.
I just, two other things, because I'm kind of reading these things. One is around Guy and I don't know, Guy, if you agree with this, but I assert that around us, people do not complain.
No, we don't have space for complainers.
So here's the thing. Guy and I have created space to hold any way that most people be. I mean, really, like, that's our game. We just expand and expand and expand so we can be with everything. Any circumstance, any situation, etc. What we are not okay with is people complaining. And so I remember, look, people in your life complain. People around you complain. They're human beings, right? So we actively went out and altered the conversations around us because we became 100% responsible for no complaint showing up in my life.
Right.
The people around me live amazing lives. They do not fucking complain to me. They go to complain to other people, not to me. Well, you come to me when you're done complaining. Well, you come to me when you want to get through something, when you're done with this way of living and you're ready to just move on. You're done and sick and tired of complaining, right? So we've done that through owning our space and owning the way that people show up in our space and being 100% responsible for that. And guess what? To have conversations with people to say, like, listen, if you want to complain about this and you're not actually looking for another perspective or a solution or something like that, honestly, I'm not your guy. Like, go speak to your girlfriends or go speak to those people or whatever you want. It just, I'm not that person, right? And you can do it in a gracious way. And I'm telling you right now, like, that shit does not show up for us. Mm-hmm. It just does not. People, my conversation is, you come into our space, your dreams are fulfilled. That's the space. Truly, like, we make people's dreams come true. Not we. Like, I don't actually do anything. I just know that in my space, people live amazing lives. Right? And I cannot have that and complaints in the same place at the same time. And I just want to read out loud what Anna said because I think it's beautiful, which is, I was blaming my boss for 2 years because I hated the job I have chosen myself. I was blaming my parents who did not advise me not to accept this job at this time. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Like, Anna, what you want to get is you aren't even the one doing that. It's the ego, right? Ego gets a job. In an ego's world, the job is supposed to be fruitful, fun, amazing, growth, all of that stuff, right? And then you get a job where you have a boss that's challenging, or a job that's challenging. And all of a sudden the ego goes, well, that's not what we had in mind. And this is what it goes to do. Who do I blame for why it's not showing up the way we had it in mind?
Right.
Oh, I know. I'll blame the boss. He's the one that's making this miserable for me. Oh, I know. I'll go back a little bit further. Why didn't my parents tell me not to take this job? Like, do you guys get the insanity of this?
I think it's important to like start understanding to have a sense of humor and how not serious it is. Like, and I know we're going a little off stream, and I don't care if this is all we talk about this session, honestly, because it really is that powerful. Because it's like it's at the core of what can transform everything. We can create a whole context of things for you guys, but if this is all we do today, this is awesome. So I think what Elon and I got really interested in and made an agreement for is that we're interested in other people's happiness. Like being at like sourcing and making sure that the people in our lives are living great lives. And we have evidence for this like everywhere you look. I mean, down to people who live with me out here in California. It's like I am known as the home you come to transform your life inside of and like take things to the next level. Every roommate I've had here has expanded and grown their life to a completely different area. And for no other reason except we're having different conversations, mostly because no one's fucking complaining about anything, right? We've learned that sharing and working through things versus complaining and keeping them in place really works. But we've also learned...
Just one second.
Yeah, please.
Imagine how much time you guys spend complaining. And I don't care how spiritually conscious or whatever you are, we all complain. We're human beings, right? Just imagine for a second, if you took out the amount of time that you complain, how much time you'd actually have to do the shit that you've intended to do. Just one thing, like notice through your day. You want an exercise for the next week? Notice how many times you complain and alter the complaint that time. Like as soon as you notice it, change it to something else instantly. And you just start reprogramming this brain of yours to stop doing that, to become a solution finder, to become someone that seeks perspectives that empower you and don't pull you down, will change your life.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And no, it's fine. And I want to clarify that this doesn't mean that you don't get to share what's not working in your life, but I would say more succinctly what's disempowering you currently. But sharing is a really different experience because sharing is, Elon, I got to tell you, I'm like kind of having a bad day. I'm not feeling very confident today. And here's why. XYZ happened. I'm really dealing with this right now, but I'm saying it to like let go of it, right? To like, I'm not trying to create agreement. I'm not looking for Elon to go, oh my God, yes. That's so terrible. That happened to me too. We call that trauma sharing, okay? And for the most part, this is what people get hooked on is trauma sharing. And like, imagine you had like hip surgery. If you met Billy today, and Billy was like a new friend, and Billy's like, wait, you've had hip surgery? And Billy's like, yeah, I've had that too. You guys are gonna be like high-fiving, like, woo! Yeah, hip surgery. But we do that about everything. Everything we dislike, we connect over, we trauma share. And what you're doing is creating a negative feedback loop over and over again into yourself with people who agree about the shit in your life. Instead of talking about the things that you dream about, what you want to create, the future you're stepping into, and having people put agreement around that stuff and pushing you into that place. This is crazy what we're doing, right? So what is always interesting to me about humans is from the moment we do one of these, like Elon and I shake hands, even though we can't do it, but
is that how we shake hands, like this?
Well, I can't hear it. Like if you put your hand through the screen, maybe it'll look like we're kind of doing nothing. You gotta move it. Look, there we go. It still looks really weird. That actually looks terrible. Let's never do that again. But here's the thing. From the moment that we shake hands with somebody, right, what do? We ask each other questions. Where are you from? How do you do? Because what we're looking is for some kind of way to relate to them. We call that background or relatedness. We're looking for a way to relate to them because it makes us feel instantly comfortable. The other thing that we do is we ask questions because question leads to stories. And what humans do is we share stories to upload and download information to one another. So inside of my stories, whether or not I'm telling you what I like, what I'm good at, you know, what I do for a living, where I live, what my life experience is, my stories will intuitively in your subconscious plant ideas about me, feed you seeds that then will give you a description of my identity. And just imagine if you go like on first dates or you meet new people, you know, you tell your fucking stories over and over again, the same ones you've been telling for decades. Oh my God, yeah, that time I went to the lake, like it's the same stories. because you know that those stories instill certain lessons inside of people. So those people know now what guy likes, what guy doesn't like, what he's good at, what he's bad at, what pisses him off, what makes him happy, blah, 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 blah. And again, we do this nearly underneath the level of our consciousness. Now, here's the funny part. After we go and train everyone in our environment, right? So we have like this network, like you have your friend, you have your immediate family, then you have like your friends and like your associates, and these circles go out and out, but we train everybody the same way. And then the next thing we do is we get in an argument with the way that our environment is, feeding our identity back to ourselves, even though that we're the one that trained them what our identity is. Now that's freaking nuts. But here's the good news. Since you're the person who trained all those people to give you those loops back on yourself and create that kind of experience of reality through your identity sharing, you can recreate that with those people at any given time and recreate and transform those stories so that they see you as the new you. And here's what I always tell people. One of the things that humans do to test their reality is we test it through agreement. If a lot of people agree, it must be true. So if like your 5 or 10 closest friends, that's what interventions are. They come in, they tell you you're an alcoholic or an angryholic or whatever. Oh, fuck, it must be true. Everyone's telling me that I am, right? We use that to measure our reality. Now, you can't get away from that point of view because that's built into our biology, is to look for patterns through other people to get markers about how we are. So when you have a transformative thought like, wow, I'm going to take responsibility for this, or I'm never going to do that again, or tomorrow I'm going to start doing that. That's a transformative thought. Those things can change your life, right? Like somebody who's been smoking for 30 years going, I'm never going to smoke again. That's a transformative thought. Or I'm going to start working out tomorrow 5 days a week. That's a transformative thought. Now, if you walk out into your environment and everybody in your environment knows you as a person who never works out, when you're like, hey guys, I'm going to lose 30 pounds. They're like, yeah, fucking right, Billy. Go home. Right? Because you've trained them for 30 years that Billy's lazy, sits on the couch and eats potato chips. But here you are. You've had this transformative thought that could change your life. And you walk out into your environment and there's no agreement. So you go, fuck, that must not be true. I must not be that person. All right, I'm not going to go work out. Instead of enrolling, right? Instead of changing the story in your environment, saying, hey guys, I know for the last 30 years, I've been saying I'm going to work out. And in the last few weeks, I've been having like some serious conditions here. And I am clear that something needs to change. So here's what I'm creating for my life now. And this is the impact I believe it's going to have on me. I want you to help me be held accountable to getting to the gym, right? That changes the story. So now when you go to the gym, your friend is like, hey, Bill, what's up, man? How was your day? Did you end up going to the gym today? And you're like, no, I haven't, but thank you for the reminder, right? Like you start creating agreement through your environment and your transformation becomes easy because the moment that everyone's conversation about you is transformed, you step out into your environment now and there's complete agreement for that transformation. It's easy. This is also why people go to courses, read books, have all these things, and they feel really inspired, super inspired. Rah, rah, yeah, I got my energy way up. And then 2 days later, you can't remember why you're excited. Why? Because there's still no agreement in your environment for this thing that you've transformed. Again, you could take responsibility for transforming those stories, but most people, instead of taking responsibility for those stories, they blame the other people for having the stories, the one that you helped them create. You guys get the insanity? This is madness.
Yeah.
So this is where you can constantly be at the seat of taking responsibility for the conversations that you created, for the actions that you've taken, for the things that it's impacted people and how it's impacted you. You can say when those things change, and then your job is to go and share in what you now see with those people and change the stories. And the more you do that, the more power you have in your life, the more things will expand for you, the more people will be aligned with the new view of life that you have. And you could transform like this really, really fast.
We're definitely not going to get to integrity today because it's a whole whoop ass of a conversation. We cannot start.
Which is fine.
This is great. I want to answer Marco's question here, which is really, really great. And he said, I'm almost certain that if I sat my friends down and said, I don't want this in our conversation or don't want that when we meet, set ground rules, quote unquote, they would probably say I'm a control freak. So Marco, here's what I want to say. The fact that when we were having this conversation, your brain goes to ground rules tells me that you operate in that way, right? Like to you, life is rules.
Order,
logic, very logic brain. Nothing wrong with that. Amazing quality. Has great qualities and also destructive qualities, right? So I'm going to give you guys, this is not new. Again, you're going to hear this. You're going to be like, well, that just makes sense. But a secret weapon to having these conversations is you don't make any of it about them. Share your story. Share your experience, right? So who said it before here? Anna was basically saying that she realized today that every time she speaks to her mom, she complains at least about something. It could be anything, even the weather, she was saying, right? And what I wrote to her, that's a huge insight, share that with her. And not share that with her in a sense of like, Mom, I'm going to stop complaining, or, you know, whatever. But you could say, and Marco, you could do the same thing. Be like, listen, here's what I've realized recently. I realized that when I complain, I disconnect. I'm not connected to you. I'm not present. I'm just rattling off a whole bunch of shit. And the worst part of it that I've realized is the more I keep talking about the complaints that I have, the more I've actually manifested that stuff in my life. It's crazy. I'm done with it. So you're my friend. I would love for you to help support me in that. Because I know it's not going to be easy, and I know I can't do this on my own because I'm just kind of programmed to do these things. Will you play that game with me? Right? It has nothing to do with them. But in you doing that, do you think they sat there and weren't listening and going, huh, I kind of do that too. Yeah. Would you do that for me? Right? And next thing you know, and even if they don't do that, who cares? Right? You've already opened the door to something. We all learn from stories. We don't learn from people telling us what to do. So when you're talking about setting ground rules, yeah, that's gonna come off to them like, dude, don't tell me how to live my fucking life.
It's forced, it's manipulative, you know, absolutely, if that's the context.
Right? So that's the context, that's your background. Where the other background is, look, I'm committed to people in my life having the most kick-ass lives ever. I'm telling you, I'm a dream maker. You want your dreams to come true? Come hang out around us. I'm telling you, like, I don't know how, I don't know why, and I don't know if it's just the fact that we believe it. I'm just clear that we listen to people's greatness, right? And so I can say things to people that other people can't get away with. Because my context, my background is, how do I make your biggest self come out? How do I make that incredible soul, infinite life inside of you be the thing that drives your life, right? So in the way of that are limiting beliefs. In the way of that is your ego. In the way of that are ways that are ineffective for you. And if you know that that's the background, right? I don't go around telling people how to live their lives. Not unless they ask. Absolutely not. I don't tell people how to live, what to believe, how to eat, nothing. But you know what? We get asked a lot, right? Like, how do you do this or how do you do that? Because we've created ourselves over time as those kind of people. So, Marco, just to kind of close the loop on this, when your intention is clear and it's not just some self-serving like, hey, motherfucker, stop complaining because I honestly can't listen to you anymore, right? And that's the background. If that's the background, there's nothing that you can say that's going to move that needle. Literally nothing. But if the background comes from, I want deeper, more meaningful relationships with the people of my life. I want the people around me to be absolute badasses. That's all they will hear. They won't hear ground rules. They'll hear, yo, Marco's playing a brand new game. Brand new. I'm up for playing that game. I want to go there. Right? So again, for all of you guys, I'm begging you, like your homework for the week is whatever insight you got here, you go and share that with the people that matter most to you. Hey, dude, I was just on this webinar. I had this like aha moment. Can I just share with you what I've learned about myself? Boom. Whole new world, whole new conversation. And ask people to hold you to account. You can't Guys, you cannot do this stuff on your own. The reason we have an academy, a community of people, is because we're clear that without an accountability partner, without an accountability community, you cannot do this. Guy and I transformed our entire circle. There's not a single person in our lives that hasn't done personal development work. Our parents, we've done courses with our parents. I mean, I fucking did ayahuasca with my parents. Like, we got some amazing parents. My wife, my kids haven't yet, they're young. All of our friends, literally all of our friends have done some sort of personal development work.
And I think that's your option, right, guys? Like, look, you can stand for greater and greater in this world. And if your lenses are, well, I'm into development work, I'm transforming myself, I'm growing as a human being, and the next thing you do is you make everybody wrong who's not doing that, you're not abiding by your own work, right? Because now you're going right back to judging, assessing, making everybody wrong, they're wrong, I'm right, I'm blaming, blah, blah, blah. What good is doing any kind of personal spiritual development on yourself if you go and use that against people? If you choose this path and other people don't choose it with you, guess what? Their prerogative. If you go to Burger King and your best friend doesn't want to come with you, you don't kill off that relationship. Now, if you want to be around and surround yourself by people who are speaking differently, thinking differently, etc., that's your prerogative. As I've gotten older over the years and understand flow states, understand how my environment is impacting my day-to-day, how I'm growing, my development, what I believe I'm capable of, I've gotten very rigorous with the people I spend my time with. I'm looking for people who are playing bigger games or having bigger conversations, but I didn't go tell the people who are not up to those games to go fuck off. And if it came to a point where there was a part in the relationship that was interfering with where I wanted to go, I had a gracious conversation with them about how this no longer works for me. This is what I'm up to, and this is what I'm aligned with. And it's not about making them wrong. I make sure they were taken care of, and the experience of love was there, and they were listened to, and got whatever concerns they might have had, and vice versa. Maybe that would have even created an opening for transformation for that person. Who knows? But I know that I've gotten extremely rigorous with who I spend my time with, because I truly do believe that you are the average of your environment. They say you take your 5 closest friends, take their income, that's your income. Take that average, that's your income. I believe that to be about everything, about your level of happiness. Like, you want to see how happy you are? Look at, check out how happy the people around you are. You'll be the average of that happiness. So if you want to figure out how to get more happy, get interested in the people in your life being more happy. And instead of making them wrong for the way that they are, get interested in how you can support them and helping them create the things that they want in their life, because that's going to increase their joy. If they're happier, guess what happens to you? Way easier to be happy, right? So like, I make sure to spend my time with people who are, maybe they're not like freaking bubbling off the roof happy, although most of the people in my life are pretty damn happy. But if they're at least interested in having a conversation for how they can expand themselves and grow in a direction that would give them more power, self-expression, and all these amazing things in life, and that's what they're interested in, that's who I want to spend time with. All you guys who are on this webinar right now, I assert that's the kind of person you are also. You probably like spending time with people like us in these type of conversations, and you're here for the last hour plus minutes, and thank you guys for staying a little bit over time. We'll wrap it up real soon here for the same reasons. You enjoy this conversation. You're looking to expand yourself. It's a big deal to you, right?
Yeah, so like Guy said, if you enjoy these kind of conversations, then come check out the Have It All Academy. All you have to do is go to youwillhaveitall.com. You can register. There's a coupon code there where you can sign up for the first month with a $100 discount. If you can't find the coupon for whatever reason, just email me, elon@SatoriPrime.com, and I will get you that coupon code. And again, you can go there, check out about our live event, check out about our academy. And also, if you want to be on these calls live where you can actually come out, ask us questions and all that kind of stuff, just find the webinar registration on that page and you can do that as well. Until we meet again, have an amazing, amazing day, my friends.